19. Violence as presumption. The essence of Amalek's offense was his defiance of God, a religious lawlessness whereby God was challenged and denied. This is described in the law as acting presumptuously, in the King James Version, or acting with a high hand, ARV, that is, raising one's hand in defiance of the Lord, taking aggressive action against God and his law order. Two passages in the law treat this offence as a capital crime. But the soul that doeth aught presumptuously, whether he be born in the land or a stranger, the same reproacheth the Lord, and that soul shall be cut off from among his people. Because he hath despised the word of the Lord, and hath broken his commandment, that soul shall utterly be cut off. His iniquity shall be upon him. Numbers chapter 15, verses 30 and 31. And the man that will do presumptuously, and will not hearken unto the priest that standeth to minister before the Lord thy God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die, and thou shalt put away the evil from Israel. And all the people shall hear, and fear, and do no more presumptuously. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 12 and 13. The reference in Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 12 and 13 to the priest is to the fact that the court in Israel was often held before or at the sanctuary, God's palace and throne room, with the priest or the high priest included in the Supreme Court. Waller observed of this passage, Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 12 and 13, that presumptuously means a proud self-assertion against the law. The penalty of death arises necessarily out of the theocracy. If God is the king of the nation, rebellion against his law is treason, and if it be proud and willful rebellion, the penalty of death is only what we should expect to see inflicted. The marginal reading of Exodus chapter 17, verse 16 makes it clear that this was basic to Amalek's position. Because the hand of Amalek is upon or against the throne of heaven, therefore the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. The essence of the Amalekites is, as we have seen, the desire to exercise omnipotence in destruction. But because although man is mighty, he is not almighty, his power is exercised in pseudo-omnipotence. Instead of creating a culture, the Amalekite destroys every culture he touches, both as a parasite and also as a systematic destroyer. As an example of the strange extremes to which perversity and presumption will go is the quote, church end quote, and quote, university end quote movement uncovered in April 1969. An international movement, it made the mistake of locating a branch near a small city and thus was exposed. Leftist in orientation, using narcotics religiously, its quote, university end quote catalogue offered, among other things, a course on cannibalism, listing course number and teacher, and calling the course a co-op. Whether seriously intended or not, its framework was one of total possibility and no law. The participants in this co-op should be willing to help obtain some freshly killed human flesh and or prepare it and or eat it. We will meet weekly at a communal Sunday evening meal, which we will all help prepare together, everyone cooking their own creations, until we can obtain some human flesh. We will first consider the historical and legal status of cannibalism, and then go on from there. The first meeting will be February the 16th, 1969 at 5:30 p.m. Call the Red Book at the Mid-Peninsula Free University 328-4941 for information. This is not a new intellectual aberration. The Cynic philosophers of Greece espoused cannibalism as a logical use of human flesh. Behind these ideas is a religious principle. The word libertine comes from liber, free in the Latin, and the concept of freedom involved in libertinism is freedom from God. One of Sad's ambitions was to be innocent by dint of culpability, to smash what is normal once and for all, and smash the laws by which he could have been judged. As Blanchot comments, Sadean man denies man, and this negation is achieved through the intermediary of the notion of God. He temporarily makes himself God, so that before him men are reduced to nothing, and discover the nothingness of being before God. It is true, is it not, Prince, that you do not love men? Juliet asks. I loathe them. Not a moment goes by that my mind is not busy plotting violently to do them harm. Indeed, there is not a race more horrible, more frightful. How low and scurvy, how vile and disgusting a race it is. But, Juliet breaks in, you do not really believe that you are to be included among men? Oh, no. When one dominates them with such energy, it is impossible to belong to the same race. To which Sappho, yes, she is right. We are gods. Still, the dialectic evolves to further levels. Sad's man, who has taken unto himself the power to set himself above men, the power which men madly yield to God, never for a moment forgets that this power is completely negative. To be God can have only one meaning: to crush man, to reduce creation to nothing. I should like to be Pandora's box, Sappho says at one point, so that all the evils which escaped from my breast might destroy all mankind individually. And Verneuil, and if it were true that a God existed, would we not be his rivals, since we destroy thus what he has made? The goal, thus, of the violent ones is total destruction. They may speak of creating a new social order, but their primary and essential work is to destroy all existing ones. They may speak as humanists of a love of man, but man has never before known such radical hatred as that directed against him by these violent ones. The violent ones love perversity because it is perverse. They love a lie because it is a lie. Their pleasure and power are in deception and destruction. As a person, when caught in a lie, remarked with relish and triumph, "But I had you believing it, didn't I?" The ultimate victory, thus, is to grind down man and to proclaim the death of God. In Verneuil's words, and if it were true that a God existed, would we not be his rivals, since we destroy thus what he has made? Men must be reduced to nothing to prove that the Amalekite, the violent one, is the new God, supplanting the supposedly dead one. These presumptuous men, high-handed men, are, according to the law, to be executed. To deny the law and to array oneself against God is to seek to murder the whole of society and deserves the death penalty. Civil disobedience, which is firmly grounded in biblical law, is one thing, but civil disobedience which places man above the law is another. It's anarchy. It is a denial of the principle of transcendental law. Hence it is that God is at war with Amalek in every generation, because in every generation, God's absolute law order is the only true foundation of society, whereas Amalek, determined to be his own God, seeks to destroy every trace of God's law order. Because the Amalekite hates God, he also hates life. In the words of Christ speaking as wisdom, "But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death." Proverbs chapter 8, verse 36. This hatred of life colours the whole of life and manifests itself in every area. To cite a revealing example, in the spring of 1969, a television commercial by a prominent company manufacturing baby oils and related products used this sentence: "It isn't easy to be a baby." This repeated statement at the heart of the commercial was used because it was obviously a telling statement in this day and age. Now, logically, if it is hard being a baby, then it's a problem being alive. A generation which accepts the thesis that it isn't easy being a baby will certainly rebel at being youths facing oncoming responsibilities, and will rebel even more at being adults with responsibilities. If it isn't easy being a baby, then we can expect truly violent tantrums at being an adult. Again, violence is begotten by false teachings which, in the name of God, deny God. Thus, in 1968, in a woman's Bible study group, ostensibly, quote, fundamental, end quote, and strongly Arminian, this statement was made and accepted with almost no dissent. Human needs come before God's law. This is an indictment to break the law, for there is not a law of God which cannot be contradicted by human need. When churchmen make such assertions, the world has no need for the Marquis de Sade or the Marxists to have violence. It is a historical inevitability that human needs will violently assail God's law order. To return to the law, as stated in Numbers chapter 15, verses 30 and 31 in the Torah version, "But the person, be he citizen or stranger, who acts defiantly, reviles the Lord, that person shall be cut off from among the people, because he has spurned the word of the Lord and violated his commandments. That person shall be cut off. He bears his guilt." That more than excommunication is meant by this is apparent from Deuteronomy chapter 17, verses 12 and 13, where the capital penalty, death, is required for this proud self-assertion against the law. To defy the law and treat it with contempt, to place oneself above the laws of God and man, is to be at total war with God and man. And the penalty is death. Wherever a society refuses to exact the required death penalty, there God exacts the death penalty on that society. The basic fact of God's law order is that, from Adam's fall on, the death penalty has been effective. Societies have fallen in great numbers for their defiance of God, and they shall continue to fall as long as their violation of God's order continues. Every state and every society thus faces a choice: to sentence to death those who deserve to die, or to die themselves. But all that hate God choose death. Certainly, the sin of presumption is total revolution against God and man. All who permit it have chosen death, whether they recognize it or not. All who are guilty of presumption are hated by God. As Solomon declared, "The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way, and the froward, deceitful mouth do I hate." Proverbs chapter 8, verse 13. This is clearly a reference to people, not merely characteristics of a particular kind. God hates them and expects us to hate them also if we fear Him. To fear God is to hate evil in its every form, and to love evil men is to hate God and to despise His law word. The humanistic mind tries to be wiser and holier than God. It claims to be able to love evil men into salvation. It views with horror those who rejoice in the downfall of evil men. God, however, makes clear His pleasure and laughter in the downfall of fools, scorners, the willfully simple, all evil men of every kind. Because I have called, and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand, and no man regarded. But ye have sat at naught my counsel, and would have none of my reproof. I will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge, and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 24 to 33. Not only is the hatred of God for evil men clearly apparent in this declaration, but also His refusal to be used as an insurance policy by them. Man is willing to grant God a place in the universe, provided that man can use God and make God serve man. Not the sovereign claims of the omnipotent God, but the sovereign claims of a morally free man are asserted. This humanistic man will accept God at best as an ally and partner, although more often only as an insurance policy, a spare tire to be used in case of trouble, if used at all. But God will not be used. The presumption of those who make pious use of God is as evil as the presumption of those who, like Amalek, defy Him. There are degrees in the expression of their evil and their presumption, but presumption, explicit or implicit, governs them alike. Satan tried it first and, after centuries of effort, is no nearer his goal.